What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Cool Colas here, and you are now tuning into a new video on my channel. For today's topic, we're going to be doing a tribute to the late and great Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, given that today is her birthday. So let's get into it. For those of you all who are unaware, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing is a foundational Black American psychiatrist who studied the psychology of white supremacy as well as the melanin theory. And she did a lot of different lectures, and she also created the book, The ISIS Papers, that many people have quoted and talked about before in the past because of how great it has detailed, again, the psychology of white supremacy and helping us to understand the relationship between white people and Black people as a result of this study. The first time that I ever heard about Dr. Frances Cress Welsing was when I was watching the movie Baby Boy. Now, I ain't gonna hold you up. I didn't know about her from the first time I actually watched the movie, right? Because I was a kid and I wasn't privy to it, and the people who raised me also either weren't privy to it or they just didn't really care. It's something they turn a blind eye to, right? But when I actually went back and I watched Baby Boy again, that's when I heard that they had quoted Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, because you can hear in the very beginning of the movie where Tyrese is actually talking about something related to what Frances Cress Welsing had theorized. He talked about how she was a psychiatrist who had studied racism, or at least like the psychology of racism, and how there was a theory of why the Black man was always called boy and was seen as a boy, and how he was seen by the world as an individual who wasn't a fully formed being, and she had many theories to support her claim. I first read the ISIS Papers maybe about 5 years ago or so, and I had an opportunity to kind of get through a good chunk of it, but I didn't read it all the way through, right? And I learned a lot from reading this book, and eventually I did finish it, but even in that portion of what I read through the ISIS Papers while I was on the plane, I did gain a lot of understanding of the way that she was thinking about white supremacy and the psychology of the white supremacist. And a lot of the main points and takeaways that I got from it was that you need to pay attention to things that are not always right in your face. And that's why in a lot of my own analyses, when I'm looking at entertainment and things like that, I don't just look at these kind of surface value or surface level racist images. I also look at it from the standpoint of you have to look at the things that are not being said to you or the things that aren't being emphasized and those types of things. And I bring that up because a lot of times in Frances Cress Welsing's ISIS Papers book, she talked about how a lot of building structures, like especially like the ones in DC, they're shaped like gigantic orifices. So it kind of relates to how they're always thinking about the aspect of genetic annihilation and how sex can, especially interracially, can cause the annihilation of white people. So it talks about that. She talked about how even in a lot of sports, you have it where there's a certain psychology in like the coloring of different items in these different like sports activities. So for example, you have like bowling where you have a black bowling ball, and then you have like white pins, and this big black bowling ball is knocking down these white pins. Like there's a psychology as to why this is a thing. Now people can sit there and they can whine and talk about, later down the line how, all these balls end up being different colors. But we all know that the classic look to a bowling game was that you had white pins and you had black balls knocking down the white pins. But she talked about the psychology of how, the way that these things were set up in sports also deals with them looking at their insecurities and how they put that into, the different sports activities that we participate in. She also talked about the psychology of how white supremacy has impacted the psyche of Black people as a whole. So she even went into how it affects, Black males and how they try to effeminize Black men, which we see a lot now in media and whatnot. So my point in saying all this is that she was really ahead of her time when she discussed all of these different things. Because remember, y'all, the ISIS papers was written in or published in 1991, and we're seeing a lot of the things that she's talking about even now in 2025. So it tells you that she really understood what was going to happen. And I mean, she gave lectures on a lot of these things even in 1976 and things like that. So, I mean, she's really been doing the work for quite a while. And there's a lot of different activists out there who have learned from her directly and honor her and take some of the lessons that she actually taught and they apply it to their own platform. Because you even hear Tariq Nasheed talk a lot of times about how, you know, that was a great mentor to him, and that's somebody who he learned a lot from and somebody who he saw as a second mother. So you can see the respect that a lot of people in the black grassroots, a lot of us who are B1, a lot of us who are pro-black have for Dr. Frances Cress Welsing and the things that, specifically the knowledge that she imparted onto us. The two things that I really don't like about the whole Frances Cress Welsing thing that, you know, still are things that I think about is that there wasn't really like a legacy. That's the first thing, you know. With Frances Cress Welsing, she didn't have kids and she didn't really have successors as well, too. Now, you can say that, you know, activists took things from her, but what I mean by she didn't have a successor, she didn't have somebody who was a foundational Black American psychologist who maybe was under her tutelage, who was, you know, learning stuff from her and whatnot. And they became a psychiatrist as well, too, who studied the conditions and the thought processes of white supremacy. You don't see that at all today. You don't see a lot of Black women who followed in that particular frame of work. Now you see, you know, a lot of sisters out here who are doing great things, and they talk about, you know, a lot of, you know, things related to white supremacy and pro-blackness and things like that, right? And I see that spirit in a lot of the beautiful sisters who follow me and who I also support mutually on social media. So shout out to them, by the way, if you're watching this video, who have that same energy and thought process and understanding of wanting to eliminate the system of white supremacy and replace it with a system of justice. I see it quite often, so it's not something that, you know, is just not is unheard of in the mentality of our Black women at all. So I'm not saying that, but what I do wish is that there was, again, a successor, somebody who was a psychiatrist who had a certain framework that was similar to a Frances Cress Welsing. And the reason why this is important, y'all, is because we don't really see a lot of great Black female role models in modern society who have a background in wanting to understand the psychology of white supremacy and embracing pro-Black values and using that as a theme for their studies. You don't really see that too much now. And a lot of times when it comes to the role models that we have, I mean, you can see a lot of them in entertainment, in the classiness of a lot of foundational Black American women who have, you know, done a lot of great and constructive things, again, in entertainment. But when it comes to, you know, being an activist, being a psychiatrist, a psychologist, even if you look in law, you don't really see that type of energy as well, too, right? So I say all that to say that that's one of the things that I really wish was still around in 2025, because our Black women and our Black girls really need role models who they can aspire to either be like or take on the mentality of. You know, there's a lot of us, again, there's a lot of Black women who have, you know, great mentalities, you know, and whatnot, but I just wish I would have seen that specifically. Now, the second thing that I wish is that I wish I was able to actually meet Frances Cress Welsing myself. She definitely is somebody who, you know, I think that there would have been a beneficial conversation. There were things I probably could have learned from her by hearing her and listening to her and listening to her directly. So that's one thing that I wish I was able to do. But of course, Frances Cress Welsing passed away in 2016. And around 2016, I wouldn't say that I was the most pro-Black person. I didn't have like the mindset then that I have right now. So there probably wouldn't have been as much benefit to me, you know, meeting her around that time period. And if anything, it probably would have been a little bit of resistance, right? But, you know, I wish that she was, you know, alive to the point where I was able to, you know, meet her in 2025 and have a conversation with her. My point in saying all this, y'all, is that there are many great reasons to honor somebody like Dr. Frances Cress Welsing. She has done a lot for Black society in trying to educate us and trying to get us on code. And I can appreciate that because it showed that she was somebody who actually cared about the progress and the empowerment of Black people, and somebody who was highly respected in the pro-Black B1 grassroots society. So I wanted to do this video because I wanted to have something out there that showed that I have been paying attention to a lot of the stuff that she has been putting out there, that I respect the work that she has done. I respect the way that she has influenced people who are doing great things right now, a lot of activists that we see today. I like the idea that she dared to talk about subjects that, were much different than what a lot of people are into. And what I mean by that is you don't see a lot of these pro-Black scholars, especially Black women in this case, who were willing to talk about the psyche of white supremacy and also how it impacts Black people. I can truly appreciate the fact that she just, again, dared to be different, and she was willing to speak the truth regardless of how other people viewed her and whatnot. If you're watching this video and you have no idea who she is, then you definitely need to study up on Frances Cress Welsing, and you definitely should get the book, The ISIS Papers, because it will tell you everything that you need to know about the understanding and psychology of white supremacy and how it relates to us and how it affects us directly. And the reason why I say all this is because we need these gems that our great scholars have put out there in order for us to carry on the torch and to create a legacy for our future progeny. And this will help us to create a framework that will help Black people, foundational Black Americans, and all Black people all over the globe, as a matter of fact, to be able to flourish and to prosper, so that we can definitely, again, build a world that is fair and just compared to what we have right now. All right, y'all, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. If you would like to hear more from me, then I would love it if you hit the like button, subscribe button, share button, and bell icon so you get notifications for whenever I come out with new content on this channel. And then when you are finished, leave me a comment below and I'll get back to it when I get an opportunity. Other than that, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.